It's Harrison.
It is 6 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend. Welcome. Happy Monday. And it is actually a happy Monday. Many good things are coming up, and I have to credit the Tea Party and the Republican Party for having done a really wonderful job with the Iowa straw poll, having really brought forth right in front of our puss the obvious truth that they tend to deliver and administer with that loving, probing care that they so thrustfully provide. And we're going to hear a little bit of audio, see a little bit of video in just a couple of minutes of some of the superstars. Was that
Wow, that was a happy accident.
Yep. Basically,
there are things we know that we know.
And we know that they know, and they're going to share what they know they know.
Those superstars.
Now, make sure you want to watch this as well. We're streaming live at GoHarrison.com. GoHarrison.com, one word, and you can see us and see our upcoming guest in just a couple of moments. We're talking about Oscar nominee Sally Kirkland, who is going to be receiving the next couple of days a Lifetime Achievement Award in New York. She's been in Hollywood forever and is going to share some extraordinary stories and offer some insight into the way things have actually changed over the years or possibly remained the same in some ways. So we're going to learn about that. She's a brilliant woman, lots of fun, very cool, very progressive, and it joined us a couple of years ago, as you know, when I was on Air America. We put together a March for Human Rights, and we had 10,000 of you listeners show up for the show. It was called Harrison on the Edge at the time, and Sally marched right in front with the surviving grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, Arun Gandhi, and we marched for world peace. And so she's been a huge supporter of all things good, all things human, all things noble. As you can tell, I like her. Yep. Now, speaking of like, or the inverse of like, which would be dislike, we're going to jump over to Michelle Bachman, who is brilliant. I don't think for a second, Mercy, we would want to suggest that Michelle is a rube, a nitwit, a knuckle-walking hispidulite, although she may walk on her knuckles when she's next to her husband, who walks on his knuckles, but that's because there's 6 men behind him.
Her husband to whom she submits.
To whom she submits.
We got clear on that this weekend, too.
And let's understand submission. Now, according to Michelle Bachman, one submits in order to, because the Bible tells me so, as it were. You'll notice I'm halfway faded out on this shot. It's my way of being slightly invisible, halfway back in the closet during this topic. Let's hear Michelle Bachman explain how the Bible has told her for years that she must submit to her husband when asked officially on Fox News. Does that mean when you're in the White House, as President of the United States, your husband, Marcus, gnawing on a hot dog, sucking it out of the bun, tells you to submit? Will you put the entire country and the thermonuclear weaponry on hold to submit to your husband, especially if he says, why don't you just launch at France? Here's her answer.
You described a moment in your life when your husband said you should study for a degree in tax law. You said you hated the idea. And then you explained, quote, but the Lord said, be submissive. Wives, you are to be submissive to your husbands. As president, would you be submissive to your husband?
That question, Byron.
You're welcome.
Marcus and I will be married for 33 years this September 10th. I'm in love with him. I'm so proud of him. And both he and I, what submission means to us, if that's what your question is, it means respect. I respect my husband. He's a wonderful, godly man and a great father, and he respects me as his wife. That's how we operate our marriage. We respect each other. We love each other.
Respect and love.
If it were mutual respect and love, wouldn't there be submitting on the other side too? But we didn't hear anything about that.
Well, it's all nonsense. It's all wordplay. It's all pure politics. Which means then, therefore, if the police pull you over and order you to submit, you can say, I respect you, but take a hike. Right? This from a presidential candidate. It's all nonsense. As we continue, let's remember what Marcus Bachmann, her virile husband, pointed out when referring to gay people, my people, by the way, being that way.
TW.
That way, also known as TW. That's right. I'm coming out right in front of my grandmother right now. Marcus Bachmann refers to us as basically beneath animals. And remember, we learned this simply in life. When you point at somebody else, you're actually pointing 3 fingers back at yourself. Or as we like to say, you spot it, you got it. Here's Marcus in a wonderful rewind to remember his position, as it were.
To understand, barbarians need to be educated. They need to be disciplined. And just because someone feels it or thinks it doesn't mean that we're supposed to go down that road. That's what's called the sinful nature. And we have
like the visuals on this shot?
as parents and as authority figures not to encourage such thoughts and feelings to move into the action steps. And let's face it, what's our culture? What is our public school system doing today? They are giving full, wide open doors to children, not only giving encouragement to think it, but to actually encourage action steps. That's why when we understand what truly is the percentage of homosexuals in this country, it's small. But by these open doors, I can see, and we are experiencing that it is starting to increase.
Wow, I want him as my voiceover teacher.
Oh, boy.
I mean, what a remarkable guy. The good news is he gave you his entire a la carte menu of his desire menu. He wants...
open doors.
It was all there, open doors. He actually has a head count on how many gays there are on Earth, not just the United States. Now, I would ask you, let's just pick your average straight guy out there in the world. Does he sit around obsessed with counting gay men? I don't think so.
Not so much.
He may be busy with other stuff, like having a life. So when somebody is that obsessed, like Captain Ahab, doing whatever it takes to bring down Moby Dick,
so to speak,
one has questions to ask.
Yeah.
Mitt Romney this weekend, once again, these wonderful GOP presidential candidates bring us so much excitement and fun, mayhem and merriment, and truth like no other, with sparkle and fairy dust enchantment. Mitt Romney explained to us something that we, Mercy, have talked about forever here on Go Harrison, and that would be corporate human beings with great corporate genitalia, corporate hearts beating, and corporate largesse. Well, in fact, as now described by presidential candidate Mitt Romney, they are indeed humans. Note, however, in this timeline of 2011, hecklers are starting to reappear. We learned during the Bush administration, of course, as R.A. Fleischer reminded us on network television, the American people to better watch what they say and watch what they do. And we came up with the John Ashcroft free speech zones, where you could be a mile away from an event behind a barbed wire fence having all the free speech you want. Not to mention that the entire United States of America is supposed to be a full free speech zone, but then who's paying attention? Well, Mitt Romney now reminds us why Citizens United is his way of having a good future.
That's my question.
Okay, can I answer?
Answer it.
Do I believe that Social Security should take no part in deficit reduction negotiations? Is that the question?
You cannot add to the deficit.
And the answer is this. Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid account for about half of federal spending.
A lie. Not the deficit.
Just hold on.
Lie.
About half of federal spending.
Come on, Mitt.
And if we are ultimately, not just this year, but over the coming decades, going to be able to balance our budget and not spend more than we take in, we have to make sure that the promises we make in Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare are promises we can keep. And there are various ways of doing that. One is we could raise taxes on people. That's not the way.
Oh, no.
Corporations are people, my friend. We can raise taxes on. Of course they are. Everything corporations earn ultimately goes to people. So, where do you think it goes? Whose pockets? Whose pockets? People's pockets. Okay, human beings, my friend. So number one, you can raise taxes. You can raise taxes. That's not the approach that I would take. We also should consider a higher retirement age. Those are things that should be considered.
Because that'll help unemployment a lot.
And I love the notion how corporations are not only people, but where does their money go? To people. You know, that implies, of course, or we would infer as people, as the public people, that corporate money drops down to the public people, goes into, our Medicare, all the things that are austerely.
It trickles down, Harrison.
It's just such not. It does go to people. It goes to 3 people.
That's right.
And maybe it's not you, the people. So that's Mitt Romney. Now, part 2 of this that was equally delicious is he was talking on the same note, and these wonderful hecklers. Remember, this was on C-SPAN. So this was seen far and wide. And if you're watching right now, you can see this at goharrison.com and watch what we're talking about. And you'll also see images that I really couldn't put on the radio. That's the beauty of the internet, or as Mr. Bush referred to it, the internet's plural, right? So this is him talking about corporations and such, and these beautiful hecklers on C-SPAN on national television start screaming Wall Street greed. It's truly a miracle.
You get to ask your question, I get to give my answer. If you don't like my answer, you can vote for someone else. Barack Obama is killing this economy. Barack Obama is why 25 million people don't have jobs and can't find jobs. And
Greed! Wall Street greed! By the way,
Okay, next question. We got another question? I gotta get it over here. Yes, sir. You've had your turn, I've had my turn.
Wow.
Yes, you've had your turn. Willard Mitt Romney running for president. Well, that was just a little update on what's gone over the weekend. We'll keep you up to date. We are going to be launching our new Go Harrison website in the next couple of weeks. It's a WordPress website. You can break stories, read breaking stories, see video, basically a Huffington Post without the AOL. So we're very much looking forward to being able to reveal that and offer you a 24/7 place, you listening to KPFK, where you can actually go and have interactive news breaking and conversational stuff. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, we're going to have some live and local traffic with Jeff Thomas, also a conversation with Sally Kirkland, Oscar nominee who's receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award, the New York City International Film Festival, for having done so much good work that she's being honored by the #1 market in the United States while the rest of the world looks on. She also has had such a good long history of progressive activism, so she's coming up in about 90 seconds. And then at the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk to a guy named Steve Beaman, and he's a Wall Street insider who's come out to do a little happy whistleblowing and explain how all this stuff works and how you can circumvent their system and survive all of this. So he's going to give out tips, and I told him part of the deal of coming on is we need to give away 5 sets. They're worth about $200 a piece of his CD series for you. Because the whole idea, as you know, in my part, is activism and solution. It's one thing to be in an armchair and talk about the icky, but if you don't provide the solution, then you're just wasting a lot of time, that's for sure. It is 19 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you. Let's do a little live and local traffic with Jeff Thomas, and then we'll talk to Sally Kirkland. Jeffrey.
Go Harrison. Completely unsponsored, common sense commuter traffic.
It is 19 minutes past the hour. This is your Go Harrison live and local traffic report on KPFK. In the valley on the 405 North before the 5, there's a crash with a fuel spill blocking the right lane. Traffic is slow from Nordhoff. In Long Beach, the 91 East transition to the 710, there's an overturned big rig. It has your transition road shut down. Traffic is also slow from Central Avenue. In La Mirada, the 5 North is slow from Valley View to the 605 freeway. And again, from Indiana to the 10, southbound lanes are also slow from the 10 to Atlantic. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, keyword Go Harrison. Better yet, watch us live via Ustream at goharrison.com. For Harrison, I'm Jeffrey Thomas on KPFK 90.7 FM Los Angeles, 98.7 FM Santa Barbara.
Live from Hollywood, it's Harrison.
And I said no, I would see the radiation.
It is 20 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you. You are listening to KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 in San Diego, 99.5 in Central California. You can see sitting next to me the beautiful Sally Kirkland. She is being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award, Academy Award nominee, and she's going to be in New York to accept this Lifetime Achievement Award from the New York City International Film Festival, and that's going to be on Thursday, August 18th, just a couple of days. And premiering the same night, she's also going to be picking up the award for Last Gamble from filmmaker Joe Goodavage. Is that his name? Goodavage. Thank you so much. I'm so hip, it's amazing. And I would love to claim that I purposely mispronunciated it, as George Bush did, but actually it was a faux pas. She's also starring along with veteran character actors Stephen Bauer from Scarface, John Savage, you know him from Deer Hunter, and she's just completed a starring role in the film Broken Roads, opposite newcomer Aidan Bristow, and it's a family drama helmed by first-time filmmaker Justin Chambers. Sally Kirkland was last seen in a guest starring role on Criminal Minds, and she has never lost her humor, her sense of humor about herself. herself. She even made an appearance as a gay hoarder specialist on Funny or Die. The video is on YouTube. Just Google Kirkland Funny or Die or Kirkland Gay, even though she's probably not. And it's the Hoarder's Untold Story. And she did it with Tori Spelling. And yes, Clay Aiken. And Sally Kirkland, Oscar nominee and great progressive activist. Welcome to Go Harrison.
Oh, it's so great to be back.
We are so thrilled to have you here because you have, and this is a Lifetime Achievement Award, but apart from just your Hollywood life, you've had a long life of activism.
And also spirit, I would say. I was a yoga teacher back when no one knew about yoga in 1969 for Swami Satchidananda, which is how I knew about Gandhi, because he named me Satya. And I said, why Satya? And he said, it means truth. And your life will be about what Gandhi's was with Satyagraha, the truth force. And then I became an ordained minister for the movement of spiritual inner awareness in 1975, and have been doing that ever since with a wonderful man named John Roger, who has done 7,000 seminars around the world, if not more, and won 6 book awards for the LA Times, New York Times. And I was with actually John Morton, the spiritual director of the movement of spiritual awareness, last night, and Lee Taylor Young, his wife, my friend, and we saw Down and Out in Beverly Hills, the 25th anniversary.
And Nick Nolte was
Nick
there,
was
right?
there,
Well, he's a good friend of yours.
Yeah, I lived with Nick, as a friend for 5 years. And Paul Mazursky was there last night. It was a blast. And I have been a sort of a gay activist, you could call me that, for many years, because my best friends are gay, and always have been. And my mother, the former fashion editor of Life 25 years, her best friend was a gay woman. So I was brought up in the fashion world, and that was my world, and it's still my world. And I'm a strong advocate for gay marriage and have been. And, 2 of my friends are getting married on the 24th in New York.
Yeah, and you're going to be in New York. And let's talk about your Lifetime Achievement Award, because you've been acting, you teach acting,
yeah,
right?
I teach acting.
You are sitting right now, by the way, our Go Harrison Solar Studios are in Marilyn Monroe's old apartment.
Oh, she was my hero. I mean, when I grew up, it was all about Marilyn, because my mother and her best friend, Mary Leatherby, who was the film department of Life, put Marilyn on the cover of Life, in the pages of Life. My mother's photographer, Milton Green, became Marilyn's vice president of her company. And I never met her, but my mother did. But Shelley Winters is my godmother. And so Shelley lived with Marilyn in an apartment or 2. Now, I know she lived here.
Yeah, she did. She lived here, too.
I'm feeling the vibes. I want to be loved by you, just you and nobody else but you. I want to be loved by you. What's the last word?
Alone.
Alone.
Yes.
And anyway, I worship Marilyn. I got to play her 3 times, twice on stage, one for a play Susan Strasberg, Lee Strasberg's daughter, wrote, one for a play Renee Taylor and Joe Bologna wrote, and then once in a movie called Norma Jean, Jack and Me, where had she grown to be in her 50s, but that's what it would have looked like. It would have looked like me.
Harrison, with you, we're talking with Sally Kirkland, Oscar nominee, and being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award in New York in just a couple of days, having fulfilled ongoing, by the way. She's got new projects coming out. She's doing all kinds of stuff. And like Betty White, though you're so much younger, but like Betty White, this notion of, well, at some point we hit a threshold and we're supposed to roll credits, not you.
No. Actually, I was told by an astrologer when I was 18 that I will only just begin when I was an old woman. Now, I don't think I'm an old woman yet, but I'm an older woman. And so I'm looking forward to my, golden years, of course. I am in my 60s, and I have done about 120 films.
Wow.
But I figure that I'm going to get that Oscar. I am going to get it. And hopefully I'm going to host on Saturday Night Live like my heroine, Betty. I did win the Golden Globe, and I hope to win more of those. And I hope to become God-realized one of these moments,
Yeah. Well, that's a lifetime struggle, and that was part of our March for World Peace, where we had our 10,000 listeners show up. And if you go to goharrison.com, there is a link there that says Peace Parade, and you could see pictures of Sally and all the rest. We had, from David Arquette to just everybody was there. It was wonderful. And one of the points we did is we made sure that the thing terminated at the steps of CNN, because we knew that the establishment media would only come downstairs if we had people like Sally front-loaded so they could see hair and nails and put it on the news, right? And I remember Gandhi got all of 2.7 seconds of air. Gandhi, who's that? Oh, but look at her hair. Where'd you get your dress? You know, I mean,
and she does have lovely fingernails. I was just admiring them just now. That's well put, Harrison.
And interestingly enough, Mercy Malik, tiny planet that it is here, you've met Sally before in your work as an actor.
We did a movie called Richard III, a modern-day version of Richard III.
We weren't on set at the same time, unfortunately, but we were in the same movie.
And David Carradine, that was one of his last movies. I did many with him, and I just adored him. He didn't play Richard, but he was there.
But that would have been great.
That would have been great, yeah.
So, Sally, quickly, and then we're going to come back to you for just a couple of minutes, and then we're going to go to Steve Beaman, and Steve is going to tell us about, he's an insider, Wall Street insider, who's going to be telling us about how it actually functions and what you can do to save yourself amidst all this rock and roll roller coaster turmoil, which is a planned event. Do not think it's an oops or a boo-boo. Rich people don't put everything on the line in order to lose it. They do it to gain it. They short sell. They move stuff about. You need to know what's going on so that if you are exposed in the financial casino, you actually understand what the rules are. He's going to be coming up, and we're going to give away probably 5 different sets of his long-form series where he explains this, and you can listen at your leisure. And Sally, you're getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. What's this for so many decades worth of work? They've obviously picked something here.
Well, no, they didn't pick a film, although my film, The Last Gambler, is premiering that night at the festival. I think it was because they wanted to find somebody who's been doing this since 1961, actually since I was 10 years old, but being paid since 61. And since I am in the premiere that night, what better person than Sally, I guess. John Savage is going to present it to me, I hear. Mickey Rourke was asked, but I'm not sure that his schedule permitted. But John Savage is an old dear friend, and why are they doing it? I don't know, Harrison. I'm amazed and surprised and happy, and you know, it makes you feel like you can take a week off. You know.
Well, yeah, and
you've earned that.
I
Absolutely.
think so. And getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, you know, in New York and Hollywood, and having worked so long, this definitely puts you in a different light for the Oscar category.
Right.
Because when you have something like, you know, New York, which is the #1 market in the United States, acknowledging you as the top of the heap, as the song famously sings, that helps reestablish. And for our purposes, you know, we get an activist who's got exposure, because invariably in every interview you've ever done, Sally, you start talking about progressive causes. You just can't help it. So this is great for us, the little folks, the humans down here.
You know, my director of the film I just completed Saturday, Broken Roads, was 22 years old and black. You know, it was just an awesome feat, and he got me going. I did some extraordinary scenes. I'm really proud of it, and I love all things gay. I love all things diverse. You know, black, yellow. I remember being with Dennis Hopper helping the Indians for years. My mother was the first person to hire a black for Life magazine, and in this precise moment, I've spaced out.
And let's remember, your mother was editor of Life magazine for a time, is that right?
One of the senior editors, the fashion editor, and she would bring me to the tower, the room where they picked the covers, and they would say, "Now, little Sally, who are those mop heads?" And I said, "The Beatles, put them on the cover, for heaven's sakes." And who was that singer with the long curly hair? And I said, "Bob Dylan, put him on the cover." You know? And so I was the token kid that got to go up to the tower to have a say in any cover that had to do with kids and and Elvis and all of that. And she was also 10 years at Vogue magazine, and so I was put in front of a camera at the age of 5 and photographed by Irving Penn and Avedon and you know, all those people, Scavolo. So I've been in front of a camera because of my mother since I was a little kid. I don't think I had a way to escape all of this, you know, but I'm very grateful. I'm grateful to have been working close to 50 years, you know.
Yeah, and I love the fact, and we're talking to Sally Kirkland, by the way, if you're just joining us here on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, or 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 in San Diego, or 99.5 in Central California. You can see Sally right now by going to goharrison.com, one word, goharrison.com. gohearrison.com. We're streaming live video along with our wonderful FM broadcast, which, as you know, is the strongest FM signal west of the Mississippi, pounding thunderously all the way up almost to San Francisco, down into Tijuana, and out almost to Palm Springs. Sally is a Oscar nominee, has been working for many years, is a huge progressive, and is now receiving a Lifetime Achievement Award by the New York City International Film Festival. And I noticed you brought one of your gays with you today.
Yeah, Daniel, you want to come over? And Daniel works
What
with me
an
when he's
introduction,
free.
right, Daniel?
And this is what turning 23 looks like. He just turned 23.
Let's pop into the shot.
Here was a shot.
For those of you who are inclined that way, you've just enjoyed a visual treat.
There you go.
And I vote yes.
Daniel's last name is Barillo, and yes, he is an actor when he's not working for me.
Well, Sally Kirkland, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
Congratulations on your Lifetime Achievement Award. Give us a website or somewhere where people can go and check you out forever.
I don't do email on this, but SallyKirkland.com isn't quite up to date, but you get the idea. And there's 3 photo galleries with all of these stars I got to act with the past 50, 45, 50 years. And me, Barbra Streisand, and me, and Robert Redford, and me, and De Niro, me, and I don't know whether it's me and Bob Dylan, but he's definitely there. And just about everybody. It's a lot of fun. If you've got nothing better to do, go through those photo galleries. And Sally K. SallyKMSIA@yahoo.com.
Wonderful. And Sally, quickly, because we are broadcasting live from Marilyn Monroe's old apartment, this is our Go Harrison Solar Studio in West Hollywood, and up the street, around the corner, was Judy Garland's house.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That what's now called, I'm not going to name it, but it's a big apartment complex. That when they shot A Star Is Born, and she was on the roof with James Mason.
You don't mean the Havenhurst Lanai? The one up on
there.
Fountain.
Yeah, somewhere up
my
there,
God,
right.
Yeah.
Right, that was her house. Did you know Judy Garland?
No, but I know Liza really well.
Ah.
And when I got nominated for Anna for the Oscar and won the Golden Globe, she found me on a street in New York where I was shooting a film called High Stakes, and she pinned on me a little butterfly pin that had been given to her by Judy, and she gave it to me to wear to the Oscars, and we became buds.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you. And again, Sally Kirkland receiving the Lifetime Achievement Award from the New York City International Film Festival. That's happening this Thursday, just a couple of days from now. And it's for her film, The Last Gamble. She's going to have it presented probably by a bunch of her different friends, whether it's John Savage of The Deer Hunter, Mickey Rourke may or may not be there. I mean, who knows? The whole Soup Cat and Pizzas in Manhattan. It's a huge honor. And we're really glad to have a wonderful progressive like you who's never been bashful about standing up for all of the regular
equality.
Standing here on our little orb called Earth, the 7 billion of us, having you fight for us when you've got the spotlight. So I really much appreciate it, and I'm grateful.
Thank you. As Gandhi would say, Om Shanti. Peace, peace, peace.
All right, thank you so much. And now it's time for a little live. How about a little live news with Mercy
ready for
Malik?
that. Okay.
Harrison. From Washington prowlers to corporate crawlers. News update. Your double grind of headlines.
Go Harrison News Time is 34 minutes past the hour, and I'm Mercy Malik with your reality check. The U.S. Financial Times reported Friday that the Securities and Exchange Commission is investigating Standard & Poor's for insider trading. The SEC has asked the ratings agency to disclose which employees knew of its decision to downgrade U.S. debt before it was announced last week. The U.S. Senate Banking Committee has also begun looking into the S&P downgrade. Barack Obama last week criticized S&P for the credit downgrade, accusing the ratings agency of a $2 trillion accounting error and asserting that the U.S. is a AAA nation. S&P has come under fire in the past for giving AAA ratings to subprime loan bunglers. I said bunglers, it's actually bundlers, but bunglers might be just as accurate. Thank you, Jeffrey Thomas. An action which sparked the financial crash of 2008. In its recent report, S&P cited political ineptitude in the Republican Party as a key reason for the U.S. downgrade. The report also noted that the deal to raise the nation's debt ceiling failed to provide a mechanism for raising revenue. It's 35 minutes past the hour. And now, the triumphant return of people who lie and then try to distract you with a shiny object. For the first time ever, there was so much wacky last week, we are forced to split the dubious distinction between two perennial favorites. Our first dishonoree is Republican presidential hopeful and sneering critic of government spending, Michelle Bachman. A Freedom of Information request filed by the Huffington Post reveals that on at least 16 occasions, Bachman petitioned the federal government for financial aid. And deliciously, most of those requests were for funds from Barack Obama's stimulus program, which Bachman called, quote, fantasy economics, end quote, proving that everyone wants a little fantasy from time to time. Insert Marcus Bachman joke here. Michelle Bachman also made 2 requests to the Environmental Protection Agency, an institution she vowed to eliminate if she were in the White House. The request letters underscore a glaring disparity between her campaign oratory and her actual conduct as a lawmaker. Bachman vilified Obama's $787 billion stimulus package as, quote, an orgy of spending, end quote. Yet 3 weeks later, Bachman wrote Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack asking him to look into an application for aid to Big Lake, Minnesota, in an apparent attempt to insert her own state into said orgy. It was the first of 16 separate requests to federal agencies made by the Bachman, making her one of our 2 winners, or rather losers, of the week. It's 37 minutes past the hour. And finally, an update on another political figure who has lied and then attempted to distract us with shiny objects on numerous prior occasions, the inimitable Sarah, I Can See Russia from My House, Palin. The former governor, thank you, 2 shows a night. The former governor crossed our radar this week due to the joyous addition of another Palin to the already swollen clan, not to be confused with a swollen gland, which is something you should have looked at by a doctor. Yahoo News reports that Palin's eldest child, Track, and his wife of 3 months, named Britta, are celebrating the birth of their first child. Being as the baby was thankfully healthy and full term, it appears irrefutable that Track has just become the second Palin child to sire a child decidedly out of wedlock. That statistic is notable only due to Sarah Palin's continuing vehement promotion of abstinence-only sex education, leading one to rightfully ask, how's that working for you, Sarah? Lest one consider the question unkind, it also bears mentioning that this is the same woman who mandated that Alaskan sexual assault victims pay for their own rape kits. It seems that Palin is woefully out of touch with the realities of sexual activity, both consensual and otherwise. So with 2 out of 5 children conceiving unintentionally outside the sacred bonds of matrimony, and the remaining 3 are still minors, Palin is a poor advertisement indeed for her precious abstinence-only crusade. You, Sarah, are our co-winner, or rather, loser of the week. For Go Harrison on KPFK 90.7 Los Angeles, 98.7 Santa Barbara, 93.7 San Diego, and 99.5 Ridgecrest, China Lake, I'm Mercy Malik. You can be my friend on Facebook and send me news tips for your reality check.
News update. Harrison.
Then I had a little bit of inner and outer lipo. I had a slight eyebrow lift, so they just slightly lifted it. And I had like real staples in my head. And I had my ears pinned back because I couldn't wear my hair up ever for red carpets because my ears always stuck out.
Live from Hollywood.
I had my jaw sawed down and reshaped. I had my nose corrected. I had fat injections put into my cheeks and into my lips that was taken from my legs. And I had a little bit of Botox put in my forehead. And then I had a little bit of fat injections put in both sides of each butt cheek.
Live from Hollywood, it's Harrison.
Real staples in my head.
40 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend. You are listening to Go Harrison on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 in San Diego, 99.5 in Central California. We're going to be talking in just a couple of seconds with Steve Beaman, and he is a financial insider, a Wall Street insider, who's put together a series of lectures on how it all works and how you and I can circumnavigate the particular hell that we're all going through. Just a couple of minutes also, we're going to be doing Activism a Go-Go, and we'll be giving away some of his CDs, his payback, which is part of the deal I always have, is that if we're going to be part of the solution, we got to make it available to everybody for free and for fun. Let's say hi now to Steve Beaman, and Steve, welcome to Go Harrison. Hold on a second.
I'll be on your program.
Thank you so much. And now you're a 25-year veteran of Wall Street, and you've got really, best way to describe it would be whistleblowing info is probably the best way to put it. You're most notable for selling your research company, Chicago Investment Analytics, to Chucky Schwab. And you've really kind of done it all and seen it all. And tell us a little bit about what's going on in the market right now, because I think most people are totally freaked out.
Well, we are clearly seeing it play out, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt that's being driven in our economy today by all that's taking place globally and within Washington. So you have this volatility, which from the inside makes traders a great deal of money. But from the top level, you look back last week, we were 11,200 when we started the week on the Dow. We ended the week at 11,200 on the Dow. So you don't necessarily have to be playing in this volatility if you don't want to.
Now, some of us, or many of us, or those of us who could and would, although we would not if we could not, but many people for years have been investing in a 401k, et cetera, et cetera. These things are whittling down. Do you stay in it? Do you leave? What do you do at this point?
Well, I think first the question is often asked of me whether it's a good time to invest. And my answer to people universally is it's always a good time to invest. That by definition means you're saving money. The question is into what do you invest? And in someone's 401k, I think they need to think about three themes as they look to position their assets. They need to look for rising interest rates coming down the pike. They need to look for rising inflation, and they need to look for volatility to continue. Those three themes can make you money in this type of market.
We're talking to Steve Beaman. He's a Wall Street insider, financial expert, practitioner, 25-year veteran of Wall Street. And we're really trying to interpret and understand all the talk about debt, downgrades, from an insider's perspective, much of this having been triggered by the Tea Party's whirlwind of fun and frolic. Michelle Bachman, for instance, insisting that in no way would she raise the debt ceiling or approve of it. This getting the conservatives at Standard & Poor's freaked out, even though they made a $2 trillion oops and a boo-boo, et cetera, et cetera. But her and other people who are actually in Congress, Congress holding the checkbook, Congress holding the purse of the government, saying we're not going to write the check. Standard & Poor's thereby responds, downgrades the U.S., and then the markets will obviously compress, Steve, because if you have downgraded the credit rating and businesses are too freaked out to hire, what we call the middle class also could be known as the customer. And if you ain't hiring, people don't have jobs, they're not out consuming and buying, and your market, again, continues to compress. The Tea Party might be a handful of people, but they've got extraordinary power on Wall Street.
Well, and let's look at this from an insider's perspective again, that whole downgrade was a red herring. It meant nothing. First of all, the United States cannot default. No matter what it did, it wasn't going to default. It brings in $200 billion a month to the Treasury, which is far more than it needs to cover the debt service that it has. So it was a red herring to begin, and what it did do, to your point, is put a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt into the behavior of the American investor. A lot of people ran from the stock market into very safe treasuries. Don't you find that interesting? After a downgrade, that was the biggest driving area for safe money. It caused gold to spike up once again. And all of that is just playing into these themes of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which are so prevalent today.
Yeah.
45 minutes past the hour. Harrison with you, your new best friend. You are listening to Go Harrison on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in Santa Barbara, 93.7 in San Diego, 99.5 in Central California. You can watch us live at GoHarrison.com, GoHarrison.com. goldharrison.com, and we'll have archives perpetually available for you. We're talking to Steve Beaman, a 25-year veteran of Wall Street, an insider indeed, with some whistleblowing analysis of who's behind the curtain, the man behind the curtain, and has put together a multiple CD set, and we're going to give away 5 copies to listeners. In fact, I'm going to give you opportunity to do that right now. We're going to do it by text. We're going to make it magical and modern. All you have to do is text our Go Harrison talk line, which is 310-737-TALK, 310-737-TALK, or if you're on an iPhone, 310-737-8255, 8255, and just text your name and your address, simple as that, and the first 5 people to do that at 310-737-TALK are going to get a copy of the 12 CD audio library worth about $200 courtesy of Steve Beaman, because he wants to help us manage the shoals of insanity that we're all going through as our ships lurch and teeter, as they list and plunge. My God, the metaphors are out of control.
Very visual.
And so, Steve, tell us, as you sit there with your captain's monocle, or your captain's, what's the word I'm looking for? Monocular? What is that?
Yeah.
Telescope.
Spyglass.
Spyglass.
I like the old school term. It's a spyglass.
Mercy's into the old school term there.
I'm taking it back, y'all.
You're looking down the horizon. We know the Earth is flat because we've been told by Sarah Palin. So you're looking across flat Earth at the horizon. What are you seeing in the next year?
Well, I see a lot of really structural change that's going to come to Washington. They're going to have to do something on this deficit. We cannot sustain that. And until that's done, I think you're going to see these markets continuing in this volatile trade range. I would say to folks right now, it's prudent to have a portion of their portfolio exposed to this commodity play of gold and silver and the other metals, but not to get crazy about it. This isn't a situation where the sky is falling and you need to jump 100% into these things. But you should have an allocation to those core things to protect you against inflation, which could come down the pike. You also, I think, as I was saying, need to be conscious of interest rates, even though Bernanke and company are keeping those rates as low as they can right now to push people into the stock market. As that starts to get lifted off, I think you're going to see rates rise a little more as global demand for debt really pushes those rates up.
Harrison with you. You're listening to Go Harrison on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles. Talking to Steve Beaman, a 25-year veteran of Wall Street, an insider indeed, talking about how you and I might practice some, I'm looking for...
Financial prudence?
Well, how about, look, penury is being poor.
Not prudence?
Portfolio prophylaxis. In other words, PP. We want you to have good pee-pee here, all right? And it's really important. And so it's about understanding where the market is going, how it works, and how we can be rescued from it. And Steve, that said, you talk about gold and silver, and that makes a lot of common sense to people. But I think we all remember in the 19th, well, we don't all remember, I wasn't born, but history reports that in the 1930s, the government turned around and seized everybody's gold that they'd been hoarding against inflation, and the government said, poof, it's ours, and have a nice day. What's to stop this particular government and all these cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs candidates not doing exactly the same thing? Let us all buy it, and then they just confiscate it, as the government famously did in the 1930s.
Well, there's an interesting carve-out of that 1930s decision, and that was that gold that was held in the form of coins and collectibles was not taken. It was only gold bullion that was taken.
Wow.
So to the extent people own those coins as collectibles or their own jewelry or those things, that was not, never has been confiscated.
Well, Steve, you're right, but the collectibles, the Franklin Mint presents, or Timmy Smith.
No, I'm not talking about those. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about buying American Eagle coins and things like that are the pure coins. I don't think it's worth the extra premium you pay for the Franklin Mint stuff. But if you just
it comes in a nice box.
That's right, but the box is, worth absolutely zero. So you buy the coins, you buy the silver coins, you don't pay a premium for them, and those you can hold as a hedge. The other thing you can do is buy what's called an ETF, or exchange-traded fund, which will track the price of gold and other commodities, and that's a paper asset you don't have the risk of confiscation of.
I love it. I love it. All right.
Unless they're as cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs as you say they are, in which case all bets are off.
Well, they are. I mean, they really are. And that's the thing, is they do what's politically expedient. These decisions for austerity and such have nothing to do with the humans. It has everything to do with a handful of people, and that's a political move. You don't compress your marketplace and think the market's going to expand. I mean, my grandmother at 99, well, now she's 0, but a year ago, she would have said, you know, because I asked her, I said, what did people think when FDR came up with Social Security and the New Deal and all of that, expecting, you know, the Kool-Aid that's been poured out so recently for her to be shocked, appalled, and horrified and spit and curse at FDR. And she said, it was like magic. Right?
Wow.
So we know it's like magic, and we know that when the top tax rate was in the 90 percentile in 1945 and in the 70 percentile in the 70s and early 80s, you know, this economy was robust. We had a middle class, in other words, consumers and customers, and it was huge. So why do we think that getting rid of all of that is the path to progress or profit, unless profit is just in the top 1%? Quick answer that all in order.
Yeah, Harrison, you bring up, I think, one of the most critical points, and that's what's different this time. And I think what folks need to be aware of, and it's why I am on the march to preach financial literacy and to help people become aware of these things, the biggest change that's happened over the last 50 years is we have gone from being the world's largest creditor nation to the world's largest debtor nation. And that is the systemic change that's causing these problems. There is an economic law that ultimately debt must be settled. And whether people like it or not, eventually you can't borrow unlimited amounts. It will come to a head, and you have to start somehow settling that debt. And that's the billion-dollar question right now. How do we do that?
And we're going to talk more about that with Steve Beaman. He's a Wall Street insider of 20 years with some whistleblowing insights here to help rescue us. We're giving away 5 sets for free of his CD volume, worth about $200 a piece, I think. And we've allowed the first 5 people to text to win, and that's 310-737-TALK, 310-737-8255, and we'll make sure to get those off to you. And we're being modern folks to keep the phone lines clean. Got a bunch of Twitter questions for you, a bunch of Facebook questions, Steve. We're going to continue with Steve Beaman in just a moment, but first it's time for us to get up off our large curd cottage cheese buttocks into action. It's time for Activism a Go-Go.
Excite your liberal might. Speak loudly and carry a big stick. It's time for Activism a Go-Go. Oh, yeah!
If this were a dictatorship, it'd be a heck of a lot easier.
1, 2, 3, Activism a Go-Go.
Well, this comes from one of your fellow listeners by the name of Doug Barnett. He wants an activism moment, and we're going to create it on our new WordPress website at goharrison.com. His question is, does gay marriage include corporate persons, or is it still discriminatorily phrased so as to exclude legal persons who happen not to be made of meat? Let's say General Dynamics and Katy Perry love each other very much, travel to New York and get hitched. Is that legal, even though one of them is still incorporated in Delaware? And does the other one get a deduction in California?
Well, corporations can marry each other. It's called a merger.
So we're going to create something on goharrison.com where we can do corporate marriages, and we'll all incorporate, one by one, the gays. Gays Inc. I like this, and we could do a mass wedding. How do you like that? Thank you so much for that idea, Doug. Another one from a listener, Lance, who last week offered to help create some jobs for people. And this, at this point in life, it's kind of like feeding the homeless. You've got to actually go hand them food so they can eat, much of which is when your fellow listeners show up and say, I want to help create jobs, I want to put it together, I want to make it easy. Yeah, we all have to work, and obviously we do need to work, but he left a voicemail offering this.
Like many of your listeners, I hit some really hard times. This government, this economy, but instead of sitting around and complaining, I decided to go out and reinvent myself again, and I'm recruiting for my team. I'm in a real-life challenge myself, and I'm looking for a few crazy Harrison Hellraisers to work with. I'm building an organization of folks just like us. The The person I'm looking for is a natural salesperson and willing to learn and teach others how to organize their finances. The person might be over 30 or in a committed relationship, enthusiastic about life, ambitious, motivated by people. If this sounds like you or someone you know, please give me a call. My name is Lance Charles. I'm at 818-266-3834. That's Lance Charles, 818-266-3834. Thanks again.
And if you have any jobs and you have any way to help any of us help articulate ourselves, become self-supporting through our own contributions, self-sustaining during this era, please reach out to me. The more you know, the more we can help and rescue each other. And that is the nature and the bottom line of community. Harris with you at 56 minutes past the hour with Activism A Go-Go. And let's go back to Steve Beaman. And Steve, thank you for patiently waiting. Let's just wrap it up. You've got a perspective here. You're suggesting that we do, look at gold and silver, that we do probably stay away from the rock and roll commodities out there. Any final tips that you might want to offer listeners who are truly freaked out?
Harrison, the ultimate insider's tip is to get educated. Become literate in the ways, practices, and procedures of Wall Street, Madison Avenue, and Washington. Burying our head in the sand in the upcoming times that we're encountering will not help us. We need to come together as people, empower each other with knowledge and insight, and then move forward to a better place of prosperity and happiness.
Now, do you imagine, Steve, that in the future, I see more and more sort of shadow economies. I see much of us getting together in community ways, live and local like this show in LA. It's a live and local show, and that's the point. When we do traffic, we're talking to people in LA. We're providing news and services live and local. I see much of this returning as opposed to, yes, it's globalized, but I do see locality. Do you think that's part of the solution too?
That is absolutely both a trend and a part of the solution. We bring things back home because that's part of what gets out of control, be it in government or business. They get so big, they lose sight of the very customers and consumers they're supposed to support.
Thank you so much. Steve Beaman, a Wall Street insider, 25 years on there, offering us tips. Thank you so much. I want to thank you, Mercy Malik, my beautiful news goddess.
You are too kind.
I am exactly accurate. I also want to thank Geoff, Uncle Harry, with the news and traffic, a breath of fresh air. In fact, a tall drink of water, if you're into that kind of thing like hot studs. I'm not. I am. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, D'Angelo, back at the studio. Thank you, KPFK. Harrison with you. You can visit us anytime at GoHarrison.com and get the archives through GoHarrison.com. Have a wonderful week. And don't forget, we love you.
I am